The late afternoon air was heavy with the scent of rain-soaked earth and something else. Tension. A slow-moving river wound through the dense underbrush, its surface reflecting the bruised sky above. Cole Mercer, a seasoned wildlife officer in his early 40s, moved cautiously along the muddy riverbank. Tall, solid, with years of sorrow behind his eyes, he scanned the horizon with the quiet focus of someone who had seen too much. By his side padded Flint, a sharp-eyed German shepherd with black and tan fur glistening in the humid air. Flint paused, ears pricked. Something was wrong. Cole followed his partner's gaze and froze. Caught between two jagged rocks in the shallow current was a small, golden creature. Trembling, soaked, barely able to lift its head. A lion cub, alone, injured, and no more than 2 months old. Its tiny chest heaved with effort, and its eyes. Those eyes weren't wild. They were pleading. Cole's throat tightened. He'd seen eyes like that before, in a boy trapped under rubble overseas. He never forgot. He never forgave himself. Without thinking, Cole dropped his radio and waded into the cold river, water swirling up to his waist. Flint went in without hesitation, staying close. The cub didn't resist. It was too weak. Cole gently freed its hind leg from the rocks and cradled the tiny body to his chest. Its fur was slick against his uniform. He felt its heartbeat, faint, but there, alive. Just as he turned to carry it back, a sharp snap echoed from the trees. Flint stopped swimming. He growled low and steady. Cole looked up and felt his heart slam against his ribs. 7 full-grown lionesses had emerged from the brush, silent, watchful, surrounding the clearing like ghosts. One stood ahead of the others, larger, scarred across the muzzle, her eyes locked onto the cub. The air grew heavier. Cole knew predators. He knew that look. Flint moved between them, floating, alert but not attacking. The lead lioness took a step forward. Cole held the cub tighter. His breath caught. One wrong move and she bowed her head, not in threat, but in recognition. The others followed, slow, deliberate. No growls, no charge, just a wall of living muscle and golden eyes, stopping short of violence. The scarred lioness stepped close, so close Cole could see the old wound across her left eye. She lowered her head and gently sniffed the cub in his arms. Then he knew. She was the mother, and she was letting him go. Cole took slow, measured steps backward, never breaking eye contact with the lioness. Flint stayed at his side, wet fur clinging to his body, eyes locked on the group of predators like a soldier refusing to blink. The cub, Leo, had been gently retrieved by his mother, now nestled beneath her large paw. Cole knew he should be relieved. The mission was over, technically. He had saved a life. But something in Serafina's eyes, that was the name he gave the scarred lioness in his mind, wouldn't let him walk away clean. Her stare wasn't finished with him. The pride slowly parted, allowing him a path out. Not with aggression, but with precision. As if they wanted him to leave. But remember, when Cole and Flint reached the tree line, he finally exhaled. His hands trembled. That wasn't instinct, he muttered, mostly to himself. That was something else. Flint looked up at him, ears twitching as if he agreed. The bond between predator and man should have snapped the moment Cole touched the cub. But it hadn't. It had shifted, adapted, or worse, been planned. Back at the truck, Cole sat in silence. The rain had stopped, but the air was thick with meaning. He replayed every second in his mind. The silence, the formation, the way Serafina hadn't just accepted his presence, but waited for it. Flint laid at his feet, quiet, watching the woods like he expected them to move again. Cole glanced at the cub-sized blanket in the back seat. "I don't know what just happened out there, boy," he said softly, "but I think it's only the beginning." That night, sleep didn't come easy. Visions of the lioness haunted his mind. Her scar, her silence, her trust. He remembered another face too. Dr. Camille Shaw, the wildlife biologist he hadn't seen in over a decade. She used to speak of lion behavior with something close to reverence. Back when they worked together on that failed rewilding project in Nevada. the same one that got mysteriously shut down. Serafina's behavior, it reminded him of the data Camille used to present. Hypotheses about emotional intelligence in apex predators, about recognition, memory, intuition. Could this be connected? The next morning, Cole made a call. He hadn't spoken to Camille since she vanished from public life. Her number still worked. After 2 rings, she answered. Her voice was cautious. "Cole?" she asked, surprised. "Is everything all right?" He hesitated, then said the only thing that made sense. "I found a cub, and his mother let me walk away." There was silence on the line, and then Camille whispered, "You weren't supposed to see them again." Cole sat in the driver's seat, gripping his phone like it might vanish if he let go. On the other end, Camille's voice hung in the air like fog, soft, heavy, full of something unspoken. "What do you mean I wasn't supposed to see them again?" he asked, his tone low but tight with urgency. Camille paused. He could hear her breathing, steady but slow. "Because those lions, they shouldn't be there anymore," she said quietly. "Not after what happened at Ridgefield." Ridgefield. The word hit Cole like a rock. It was the name of the conservation project where they had worked together 15 years ago, a bold attempt to reintroduce captive-born lions into a controlled wild habitat. The idea had been controversial, especially when Camille proposed advanced cognitive training, believing lions could develop complex social behaviors, even recognition of human allies. But the project was abruptly shut down after a fire destroyed part of the facility. Officially, the animals had been relocated, but now Cole wasn't so sure. "You're telling me one of those lions survived?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "Not just survived," Camille replied. "Thrived." Her voice broke slightly. "We had one female. She was special, smarter than the others. She used to wait at the fence line when you walked by." Cole's breath caught in his throat. The scar, the stare, the silence. "Serafina," he murmured. Camille exhaled sharply. "You named her too?" Cole's mind was spinning. That meant the pride he saw wasn't wild in the traditional sense. They were descendants or survivors of a generation of lions bred to adapt to humans, to learn from them. But no one was ever supposed to know they remained in the wild. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked. "Because I didn't know they were still out there," she answered. "And if someone finds out, they'll come for them, Cole. You know they will." Outside the truck, Flint stood near the woods, ears perked, tail stiff. Something had him on alert again. Cole stepped out, his boots pressing into the wet earth. The air smelled different, less like nature, more like metal, like gasoline. In the distance, he saw tire tracks that hadn't been there the day before. Deep ones, heavy, not from his truck. He followed them for a few yards, Flint close behind. Then he spotted it. A crushed cigarette still burning at the edge of a tree stump, and a plastic tag, marked property of Ridgefield Wildlife Control. Someone else had been here, and they weren't here to protect the lions. Cole crouched by the tire marks, running his fingers over the grooves in the mud. They were fresh, no more than a few hours old. He picked up the still warm cigarette and turned it slowly between his gloved fingers. Flint stood beside him, hackles slightly raised, nose twitching toward the woods. Whoever had been here wasn't just watching. They were close, and they weren't hiding it. The plastic tag from Ridgefield Wildlife Control lay half-buried nearby, bent at one corner like it had been torn off in a hurry. He took a photo with his phone, then scanned the tree-line. Everything was still, too still. The birds had stopped calling, and the wind had gone flat. Flint gave a low, rumbling growl and took a step forward, then paused. Cole followed his gaze. Just beyond the thicket, something caught the fading light, the glint of metal. A lens. Someone had set up a camera, hidden, pointed directly at the river where he had rescued Leo. "They're watching the pride," Cole muttered, voice tight. Back in his truck, Cole called Camille again. "They've got surveillance equipment in the woods," he said, holding the phone between shoulder and ear as he drove. "Ridgefield's name is on it." Camille swore under her breath. "It's happening faster than I thought," She sounded shaken. There's a man, Clint Maddox. He used to work with Ridgefield, then started contracting for private game control. He doesn't relocate. He erases. The words hit Cole like a punch to the chest. Maddox is a poacher with a badge, Camille continued. If he's been hired to find those lions, he won't stop until they're all dead. And if he finds out you've seen them... Her voice trailed off. Cole gripped the steering wheel tighter. He knew what that meant. Witnesses were liabilities, especially when the truth was inconvenient. He looked over at Flint, who sat alert in the passenger seat, gaze never leaving the window. This wasn't just about wildlife anymore. It was about survival, the prides, and whatever secret they were all tangled in. Later that night, Cole couldn't sleep. He sat on the cabin porch with Flint at his feet and a flashlight in hand, staring out into the dark trees. He kept thinking about Serafina, the way she had looked at him, not like a beast, like a guardian. And then the cub, Leo. If Maddox found them... The thought twisted in his gut. He wouldn't let that happen. Not again. A twig snapped in the woods. Flint's ears shot up. And this time it wasn't an animal. The snap of the twig echoed louder than it should have. Cole was on his feet instantly, flashlight in one hand, the other hovering near his holstered sidearm. Flint was already up, stance rigid, teeth bared in silence. Cole aimed the beam toward the trees. Nothing moved, just a wall of darkness and damp leaves. But Flint didn't relax. He growled low and steady, locked on something invisible. "Show yourself," Cole called into the trees, voice firm but quiet. No answer. He stepped off the porch and moved slowly into the brush. Flint stayed close, scanning the woods with every step. They advanced about 20 feet before Cole saw it. A footprint. Human. Deep and deliberate. The soil was still compressed. Someone had been standing there, watching. Cole scanned the area again. High ground. Perfect vantage. He felt his chest tighten. Whoever it was had been close enough to see his face. Maybe even hear his conversation with Camille. Cole followed the trail for another 50 yards before it vanished near a steep ridge. Flint sniffed the air, then turned his head sharply, ears twitching. That's when Cole spotted something just beyond a fallen log. A single bullet casing. Clean, untarnished, left on purpose. A message. He picked it up carefully. .308 caliber. Hunting round. "This isn't a warning," he muttered. "It's a promise." Back at the cabin, Cole locked every door and window. He knew how Maddox operated. The man liked mind games, psychological warfare. Fear was his first weapon. But Cole wasn't some Lost Park ranger. He was military trained. He had faced real combat. Still, something about this felt worse. Because it wasn't just men's lives on the line. It was creatures that couldn't speak for themselves. Creatures that had looked him in the eye and trusted him. He opened a drawer and pulled out an old, beat-up map of the area. He traced the river, then the ravine where he'd found Leo. He circled it, then circled a second location. Red Pine Clearing, a remote area further east, once used for research drops during the Ridgefield project. If the Pride moved, they might head there. It was dense, protected, and vulnerable. He needed to get there before Maddox did. Before the wrong kind of trigger was pulled. Outside, the wind began to howl through the trees. And somewhere far off, barely audible, came the deep, distant crack of a rifle. Not a warning shot. A hunt had begun. The road to Red Pine Clearing was barely a road at all. Just tire-rutted dirt barely wide enough for Cole's truck. Branches scraped the windows, and the trees pressed in from both sides like they were trying to close the path behind him. Flint sat rigid in the passenger seat, his eyes fixed ahead. The farther they drove, the heavier the air became, thick with the scent of pine sap, wet moss, and something else. Fear. Cole didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The forest was speaking for itself. When they arrived at the clearing, it was like stepping into a forgotten world. A broken-down ranger tower leaned sideways near the center. Vines crawled up its legs like veins on aging skin. Nearby, remnants of Ridgefield equipment lay abandoned. Cracked crates, rusted tools, and a bent satellite dish half buried in the ground. Cole stepped out slowly, scanning the area. Flint followed, nose to the earth. Something was off. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was loaded. Flint led him to a patch of disturbed dirt near a cluster of thick ferns. Cole knelt down, brushed it back, and froze. Blood. Fresh. Not a lot, just a smear, but enough. Next to it, a tuft of golden fur. Lion fur. His jaw clenched. "They've already been here," he said under his breath. He looked around, searching the tree-line for movement, for eyes in the shadows. Nothing, but the woods were holding their breath. Suddenly, Flint growled and barked once. Sharp, urgent. Cole turned just in time to see a red laser dot flicker on the trunk of a tree behind him. Sniper. He dove, pulling Flint with him behind a rusted crate. A second later, a shot rang out, splitting the silence like thunder. Bark exploded off the tree. Cole drew his sidearm, but he couldn't see the shooter. "Maddox," he hissed. The bastard was playing games again. But this time, the stakes weren't abstract. Cole pulled a radio from his vest and tuned to a channel only Camille would know. "They're already at Red Pine," he whispered. "One of the lions is injured. Maddox is in the area, possibly in sniper range." There was a pause. Then Camille's voice crackled through. "Hold your position. I'm on my way. Don't let him push you out." But Cole wasn't planning to run. Not now. Not with the pride bleeding in these woods. And not with a man like Maddox turning this forest into a battlefield. Cole crouched behind the rusted crate, pulse pounding in his ears. Flint stayed low beside him, chest heaving, eyes sharp. Every second dragged like an hour. Somewhere in the trees, Maddox was hunting. Not just lions, but witnesses. Cole kept his pistol drawn, scanning the ridgeline. The red laser had disappeared, but the threat hadn't. It lingered like the smell of cordite in the air. "You don't miss on purpose, do you, Maddox?" Cole muttered. "You're trying to rattle me." The sound of tires on gravel snapped his attention to the north trail. A dark green SUV emerged from the trees, its headlights off. Camille. She stepped out slowly, her face pale but determined. She was wearing old Ridgefield gear, and around her neck hung the original access tag from the Ridgefield project. Something she hadn't worn in over a decade. "You came unarmed?" Cole asked, incredulous. Camille shook her head. "No, I came with what matters." She held up a small tablet, its screen already displaying Ridgefield's old lion tracking software. "They're moving east," she said. "Seraphina's leading them away from the clearing, probably sensing danger. But one of the younger females is wounded. She's limping." Cole cursed under his breath. If Maddox caught sight of that lion, it would be over. "We have to intercept him," Cole said. Camille nodded. "But not by force. If we escalate, he'll have justification to take them all out, and us with them." Cole thought fast. "What if we use the terrain against him? There's a choke point down by the riverbed. If we lead the lions there, we can control the field." Camille hesitated. "You want to direct a wild pride into a tactical ambush zone?" He met her gaze. "They're not wild. Not anymore. They trust me. At least Seraphina does." Camille looked at him, studying his face. "You're willing to bet your life on that?" Cole didn't blink. "I already have." As they moved through the woods, Flint took point, guiding them with quiet precision. Every few yards, Cole spotted more signs. Paw prints, fresh scat, snapped branches. The pride had passed through, and fast. Then he heard it. A low, mournful growl up ahead. Flint stopped. The limping lioness was there, standing alone by the river's edge, blood staining her hind leg. She didn't run. She looked directly at Cole. He raised his hand slowly. She didn't flinch. But behind them, a new sound cut through the air, the click of a safety being turned off. They weren't alone. The sound of the safety disengaging sliced through the forest like a blade. Cole turned, weapon raised, eyes scanning the tree-line. Flint growled low beside him, teeth bared, every muscle in his body coiled like a spring. Camille froze, clutching the tablet to her chest. From the shadows, a figure stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a camo jacket too clean for the woods. Clint Maddox. His rifle was cradled in his arms like an extension of his body, finger just off the trigger. "You always were the sentimental type, Mercer," Maddox said calmly. "Still chasing fairy tales and trying to save things that don't belong in this world." Cole kept his aim steady. "You're the one trespassing. This isn't Ridgefield jurisdiction anymore." Maddox chuckled, a sound cold and hollow. "Doesn't matter. I have private clearance. Contracts. Someone up the chain wants this mess cleaned up. Permanently." He looked past Cole at the injured lioness, then at Camille. "Let me guess. She dragged you back into this too?" Camille stepped forward, defiant. "They're not a threat. They've stayed out of human territory for over a decade. The only threat here is you." Maddox's expression darkened. "Threats don't matter when there's money involved. You think people want lions with memories roaming free? You think they want predators that remember faces?" His voice rose slightly. "They remember too much. That's the problem." Cole took a step closer. "They trusted us. Serafina remembered. She spared me. That means something." Maddox's jaw clenched. "It means they're not natural anymore. And unnatural things don't last long out here." In one motion, Maddox raised his rifle, but Flint lunged first. The dog struck with trained precision, knocking Maddox off balance. The shot fired wide, echoing through the clearing. Cole rushed forward, tackling Maddox to the ground. The rifle clattered away. They struggled in the dirt, fists landing hard, breath coming in grunts. Camille shouted, but neither man heard her. Flint circled, barking furiously. Finally, Cole pinned Maddox down, fist raised but paused. Maddox looked up, blood on his lip, smirking. "Go ahead. Put me down like the animal you're trying to protect." Cole's hand trembled. Every part of him wanted to finish it, but he didn't. He stood slowly. "You're not worth it." Behind them, the injured lioness had disappeared. But now, standing further up the ridge, were the rest of the pride. Serafina in front, silent and still. Her golden eyes locked with Cole's again. She had come back. And this time, she brought the whole family. For a moment, time froze. Cole stood over Maddox, fist still trembling, dirt and sweat clinging to his skin. Flint stayed beside him, breath ragged, growl still rumbling deep in his chest. Across the ridge, Serafina held her position like a queen returning to reclaim her land. Her pride flanked her. For lionesses, powerful and composed, with Leo peeking from behind her massive shoulder. No one moved. Not even the wind dared interrupt the moment. Maddox slowly sat up, spitting blood onto the ground, eyes flicking from Cole to the lions. "This is a circus," he muttered, voice sharp with disbelief. "You think they care about you? They're animals." Cole didn't respond. He didn't have to. Serafina stepped forward. Just one step, but it said everything. She wasn't attacking. She wasn't running. She was watching, judging, the same way Cole had seen commanding officers look at soldiers who'd crossed a line. Camille moved toward them, her voice calm but firm. "We have it all recorded. The shot, the confrontation, everything. If you fire another round, you won't be cleaning up a problem. You'll be answering to federal charges." Maddox looked at her, then at Cole, then at the lions. His hand twitched. For a moment, it seemed like he might try something reckless. But Serafina growled low, a deep, ancient sound that cut through whatever bravado Maddox still clung to. He dropped his hand. Cole finally spoke, his voice low but resonant. They didn't forget what was done to them, but they still chose not to kill. That's more than I can say for most men. Maddox looked away, defeated, disarmed, and humiliated. He stood and limped toward the trees, disappearing without a word. Flint barked once, not in warning but in closure. It was over. As the adrenaline faded, Cole turned toward Serafina. She approached slowly, Leo walking beside her now, limping slightly but stronger than before. She stopped just a few feet away from Cole, eyes locked with his. No barriers, no fear, just understanding. He knelt slowly and extended his hand, palm open. For a moment, she just stared. Then, with deliberate grace, she lowered her head and touched his hand with her nose. A gesture of peace, of trust, of farewell. Then, without a sound, Serafina turned and led her pride back into the forest, disappearing into the gold-lit trees. Only Leo looked back, just once. A week had passed since the confrontation at Red Pine Clearing. The forest had returned to its usual rhythm. Birdsong, wind through the pines, and the distant rustle of deer moving through the underbrush. But for Cole Mercer, nothing was quite the same. He sat alone on the porch of his cabin, a mug of black coffee in hand, watching the morning mist rise off the earth like smoke from an old wound finally healing. Flint lay curled at his feet, ears twitching even in sleep, always half alert. Camille had filed the official report. Maddox had disappeared, most likely warned off by the legal pressure she had carefully assembled with her contacts from the old Ridgefield files. The footage from Cole's body cam and Camille's tablet was enough to make anyone think twice before returning. No one would come for the lions. Not now. Maybe not ever. Still, Cole knew better than to trust silence completely. The world had a habit of circling back to what it tried to bury. He drove out to the river 2 days later. Alone. No gear. No rifle. Just memory and instinct. The stones where he'd first seen Leo were still there, smoothed by water, untouched by man. He crouched beside them, letting the cold soak into his hands. Felt different now. Not dangerous. Sacred. He closed his eyes, remembering Serafina's eyes, and the quiet strength in the way she had walked away. She hadn't needed him, not truly, but she had chosen to let him be part of something ancient. He didn't see them that day. Not a flicker of golden fur. Not a paw print in the mud. But he didn't need to. Their presence lingered, like heat in the ground after the fire has burned out. He left a small marker behind, a flat stone, etched by hand with one word: trust. Then he stood, nodded once to the empty woods, and walked back to his truck. That night, back at home, he watched Flint sleep, then pulled out an old photo from the drawer. One from Ridgefield years ago. In it, a younger Serafina stood at the edge of the enclosure, eyes locked on the camera. Cole stared at it for a long time. "You remembered," he whispered. "Even when we forgot you." He set the photo back down gently. As dawn broke the next morning, Cole stepped outside and listened. No roar, no footsteps, just the feeling that somewhere, deep in the forest, a bond had been restored, one that had never truly broken.